Warner Brothers is selling Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, but my money is on the fact that Netflix won't own them. Why? Well, the reasoning is a little bit more complex than you might have been led to believe in other videos, because over the last few days, things have kind of unraveled to the point where we've got multiple people bidding for Warner Brothers, which owns Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. We've got the government involved, and things have just gotten way more complicated over this week. Now, normally I don't make videos like this, and I actually told myself that I wasn't going to make a video about Netflix acquiring Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, aka them acquiring Warner Brothers, because I just don't make videos like this. Usually I make lore videos, I talk about the books and movies, my videos are scripted out so I know what I'm saying beforehand, but right now I'm just sitting down, I'm looking at the news on my computer, and I'm thinking, wow, this Netflix deal might fall apart in front of our eyes. And I think it's fair to you guys that you're updated on what is happening real time, because like I said, some of the videos that were made a few days ago by my fellow creators who are amazing in the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings space, they were made right when the news was announced that Netflix and Warner Brothers had agreed to a deal. But like I said, in the last few days, things have developed and things are changing rapidly. And I especially think for people who don't live in the US or maybe don't pay attention to US politics, which as I say that nowadays, it seems impossible for people not to pay attention to US politics because we're insane. But things have really gone into the government, and that has changed a lot of this deal. Now, I want to say up front that this is not indicative of my own personal beliefs or political view, because I don't bring that on this channel. That is not the point of this channel. And don't go in the comments and start talking about and debating each other in politics and the US government and anything else you want to talk about there. That is not the place for this. You can go do that on other websites, but I'm just trying to give you an update because this really does affect the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings franchises, which are dear to all of our hearts. So yeah, just keep that in mind as I talk about this. I'm not trying to present a biased point of view. I'm literally just reading off of my computer the news that's being reported right now from multiple sources about this deal. So I guess let's get right into it and let me talk about why I don't think Netflix will actually end up buying Warner Brothers. So the first thing to keep in mind is that there are regulatory and political hurdles that Netflix has to jump over because the deal is so large. When you get into the tens of billions of dollars, it does get taken before the government, who decides if that acquisition can go through, because we want to avoid a monopoly. And since Netflix is one of the largest streaming services in the world, I think they're right below YouTube in terms of streaming hours that, people spend on the apps. So if they acquired HBO, which I think is pretty much below them, then they really would have a decent percentage of the streaming competition in the world. So there's already regulatory hurdles that they'd have to jump over to acquire Warner Brothers, which owns HBO, and several other streaming services as well. And because of those hurdles, it actually would take 12 to 18 months for this deal to get approved. So everybody is talking about this right here in the moment. It's hot news. It's going on right now. But what you need to understand is that just because a deal was signed doesn't mean the deal has gone through, and it doesn't mean that they own them right this instant. Because I saw a lot of people talking about this, like, oh, did you see that Netflix owns Lord of the Rings or Netflix owns Harry Potter now? And my response was, no, they don't own it. They don't own it for another year to a year and a half. It'll be the end of 2026 or all the way into 2027 before a deal like this would get approved. Now, that was my initial thought, and I wouldn't make a video about it if it were just for that, because it still could possibly get approved. But there are certain things that have developed over the last few days that really make me skeptical of if it will go through. So what really complicates this is the fact that Warner Brothers owns CNN. Now, technically, the Netflix deal does not include CNN or their cable television channels. That would actually be spun off into a company called Discovery Global. So Warner Brothers, well, it wouldn't be Warner Brothers anymore, but those people would still own Discovery Global, which would have channels like CNN attached to it. So Netflix wouldn't own CNN. That's not the issue. The issue that has come up is the fact that Paramount has now submitted a bid, along with a few other people who are jumping on the opportunity. But the main one is Paramount, Skydance, They've submitted a counterbid, which was unsolicited. Warner Brothers didn't ask for it, but it is quite enticing, and we're still waiting to hear what Warner Brothers will say about it. Hopefully I'll get this video out before that decision is made, but as of the making of this video, that decision hasn't been made yet. But just to compare the bids, Netflix's proposal was around $83 billion. That was the approximate thing, around $27.75 per share when you add it up. The Paramount Skydance offer was $30 per share, which comes to about $108 billion. So significantly more than Netflix's offer, which is why, even though this was unsolicited and it is a hostile takeover bid, which I'll discuss in a minute, it is enticing, because whenever you present someone with tens of billions of dollars more than they thought they would get, it really makes them want to take it. The other part about this offer is that it's an all-cash offer, which is much more interesting to the shareholders of the company. And something that Netflix and Warner Brothers have to jump through, other than the government, is they also have to have it approved by the shareholders. So even though the executives have signed an agreement with Netflix, the Warner Brothers shareholders have not yet agreed to anything. So when the shareholders see, oh, we could be getting $20–30 billion more from Paramount, they're much more likely to side with Paramount rather than Netflix. But here's the key thing. The Paramount Skydance counterbid is a hostile takeover, and it includes all of the television channels. It includes everything, 100% of Warner Bros. Discovery. They wouldn't spin it off into Discovery Global. Nothing would be owned by them. Paramount would be taking it over, firing a lot of the executives, and by firing, I mean that they'd get fat cash payouts, so don't feel bad for them, but they'd get all that, and then Paramount would do whatever they want with those assets, and that would include CNN. So for those of you who don't live in the US or maybe just don't pay attention to politics, again, leave that out of the comments. I'm not trying to make this a political video, but it is important to recognize that Larry Ellison and his son are quite close with Donald Trump, the president of the United States. And Donald Trump does not like CNN. I don't think that's a secret to anyone who watches this video. So pretty much what happened is when this offer was submitted by Paramount, Donald Trump also said, I believe yesterday or maybe the day before, he mentioned that a Warner Brothers acquisition should include all of the different channels. It should include CNN. And he specifically said that he would oppose any deal made that didn't include CNN, which means once it came to the government for regulatory approval, Trump, along with all of his supporters in the government, so most of the Republican Party, would deny this. They would not let the deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers go through unless it included CNN. And on one hand, this is a genius play because now Larry Ellison, who is friends with Donald Trump, has a bid that includes CNN. Now, I know none of this seems to have to do with Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, and it's simply because they're getting caught up in this political drama that's playing out. When the original deal was announced between Netflix and Warner Brothers, there wasn't really any of this drama. It was only in the 2 to 3 days after it that all of this sprung up out of nowhere. So just to repeat, there was an announcement on December 5th saying that Netflix and Warner Brothers had agreed to Netflix's proposal of $82.7 billion in acquisition. Not all of that was cash, some of it was involved in other things as well, and that they'd be getting everything except the linear cable networks like CNN, TNT, Discovery, HGTV. All of those would be spun off into something called Discovery Global, and the team at Warner Brothers now would still own that. It would just be a separate company. That deal would take 12 to 18 months to get approved by the shareholders as well as the government. Then 3 days later, Paramount Skydance announced their unsolicited bid that was very enticing at an all-cash offer of $108.4 billion, which, like I said, much more enticing to the shareholders, and that would include 100% of Warner Bros. Discovery, everything including CNN. So anyway, I don't have much to say on who I would prefer. I really don't know much about what they would do either way. I think from what we've seen between Lord of the Rings stuff and some Harry Potter stuff, it really doesn't matter who owns it because it might get ruined no matter what. But I just wanted to make this video because I thought way too many people were just jumping to conclusions and saying that Netflix already owns these assets when they don't. And even if the deal does go through, it'll take a year or two before it becomes official. But personally, I'd put my money on Paramount Skydance because it is about $25 billion more in cash, which is very appealing to the shareholders, and the owners of Paramount Skydance are buddy-buddy with Donald Trump, which means they can make it very difficult for a Netflix deal to go through. So we'll see what happens, and I could drop this video today, and tomorrow the news could be updated, so make sure you're staying up to date. make sure you're staying informed. If you're a fan of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and you care about this stuff, then don't just take some random YouTuber's word for it. Actually go search it yourself. I'm trying to present the most up-to-date information, but even this is going to be out to date in probably like 2 hours. That's how fast the news is moving, but it's not how fast the deal is moving, so that'll take a while. Anyway, I'm probably not going to make more of these videos unless you guys beg for them. Let me know in the comments if you like news updates like this. I prefer to make the lore videos, so I hope you guys like those too, and we'll have those coming out on Saturday on the main channel and Wednesday on the Harry Potter channel. Make sure to subscribe to both if you like both Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey, this is Editing Gibby here, and before I end the video, I want to give a huge shout out to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, RoboSteve, and the rest of my incredible Patreon and YouTube members who help make these videos possible every month. And extra special shout out to Chris Boswinkle, who became a Patreon and YouTube member. I don't know if that was an accident, but thanks anyway. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.